I wrote a screenplay in 48 hours. Wait, that sounds kind of familiar.
I wrote a screenplay in 48 hours.
I pretty much got this idea from Tyler, but it seems okay because he's pretty much my screenwriting professor without going to an actual film school, so it seems alright. So about 2 years ago, in March 2020, I found this video from Tyler, and I sort of wanted to take this challenge on because he was the one who inspired me to actually consistently write, to actually keep writing my screenplays and get my stories out. So I decided to do the exact challenge that he did. And did I finish it? Well, clearly yes. So let me show you the process. Like with all things, you need a plan, right? I couldn't just start writing my screenplay. That would be horrible. That's how you go into existential dread about writing and your life in general. So my process is relatively simple. I split it to 3 phases. 1 was brainstorming, which was finding some sort of idea. 2 was outlining, which was making sure my story had some sort of structure. And 3 was writing, which would take the most amount of time. So once I started to brainstorm, I thought of genre first. For the past, when I've written screenplays, I tend to do this because it lets me build a framework for how I want my story to be. Once I find a genre that I want to write about, I can make the world, the characters, the theme, and the structure based on that genre. So with the time constraint, I had to be strategic. I couldn't write something very complicated like a complex sci-fi, a Victorian horror, historical fiction, or something like that. So I chose a superhero story, since I had experience with superhero stories in the past, as well as that seeming very appealing to me. One thing that I did rule out, however, was superpowers, because superpowers tend to complicate things and a magic system is needed for those. So I decided to make a superhero story about superheroes with no powers and based on reality. Then I immediately thought of Kick-Ass, which kind of killed my spirits, but I made it work. So within my pursuit to not be the next cliche screenwriter just rehashing ideas, I looked to the things I've been studying during my break. I watched this YouTuber named Dr. K, who focuses on mental health for gamers. And one concept that was brought to my attention was the concept of the doomer, which is basically someone who's quit on life and quit their pursuit to improve their life in some meaningful way. So with this in mind, I chose to make my character somewhat like this, to have him have no meaning within his life, but then seek out being a superhero of some kind or being a vigilante to make this meaning. So then the villains would be kind of like an offset of this, where the people who feel like failures in life, who then turn to violence and destruction, actually gain that meaning. So after about 15 minutes of brainstorming, I finally got something down and had a vague idea of what to do next. Sorry for my bad handwriting. Hopefully you can read it. Now for the fun part. When I got to outlining, I used Dan Harmon's story circle. If you're brand new to screenwriting, I would recommend that you watch Tyler Mowery's videos, where he jams this down your throat for every single video he makes pretty much. Now, this is not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing because, despite how frustrating this may be at first when you're first learning how to write, it's very crucial to actually building scenes and acts and your entire screenplay through the Dan Harmon story circle. This tool highlights the crucial turning points inside your story to actually make it flow better, to actually properly tell your story, to convey the certain ideas you want to convey. I think I have a general outline now of, what I'm will be writing in the next few hours. So this part is generally just, it's like the dump, you kind of just put all what you think is going to happen during the story. So I jotted down, wants, needs. I jotted down, main events. I'm using like bad guy and main character as, the names. it's not in like hero and villain, things like that. But generally, when you're using the story circle, just get out the main points, so you can actually go deeper in that when we do the further story circles, which is the outline, right? So once I had my overall structure for my story, I then went in deeper to actually figure out where my turning point should be and where my midpoint and where the turning points of my acts would be. Once I had this, this would make it way simpler to actually blow through scenes, to actually get my script out, so I didn't have to keep stopping along the way while I started writing. Because the more times I had to stop, the less time I would have to write, which would mean I would probably fail the challenge. Okay, so I finished this now. So now we have the story more meat with the story now. We have separated to all 4 acts. I'm using the 4-act structure because it's just simple for me, but you can use whatever. But yeah, we have Act 1, Act 2, Act 2, Part 2, and Act 3. I sort of just made like the main events again, but like a lot more deeper within the acts to see what's going to go on. So I guess now we're going to move on to characters, because that's my favorite part, is making the characters. So yeah, let's see what we can do. So when building character profiles and brainstorming things for your characters, you don't want to focus on the superficial things, such as what race they are, the color of their hair, their jacket. Like, I think when people build characters, things are fun, right? We all want to make cool looking characters that we may see on the screen one day. But that's not crucial to when you're building characters. So, and I still suffer from this, attaching myself to how a character could look. But what you want to do is you want to figure out what your character wants from the story, so what they're actually chasing after. You want to find out what they believe, because their belief will determine their actions and how they progress through the story. And lastly, it's something that I kind of do myself. I haven't really seen many writers do this, but it's to make a clear flaw for your character. Because when your character is clearly flawed in some crucial way and they're trying to fix it somehow, that can open many situations for your character to confront this certain flaw. So once I had my characters made and which characters would hold which beliefs and how those beliefs would clash with certain beliefs, I moved on to phase 3. Okay, so finally have my characters. It's time to do an outline. So after a few hours of procrastinating and not wanting to do this challenge because of my self-doubt, I decided to get down and start writing. Now, the crucial part, especially with my time constraint, was to stay very focused. So, and the key to my writing focus, especially for this challenge, was to make sure that my workspace and my mentality was perfect to get inside flow state. Now, if you don't know what flow state is basically a high form of conscious focus where you are solely focused on the task at hand, and your thoughts are not wandering. They're not thinking about the stresses of life. They're not thinking about what you had to do today. They're not thinking about that bill you forgot to pay, or that thing you forgot to do. You're solely focused on getting the task done, and that's what I made sure I did. Now, about 2 hours in, I got about 15 pages down, so I went downstairs. I had some dinner with my mother, and then I went back to work. I finished about 20 more pages. I also changed my shirt because inside my room it was getting insanely hot. Not sure why it was so hot in the midst of winter, but That's California. So the night creeped up on me, and I think I got to page about 24 that night, 25, and I fell asleep around 12, and I thought I was in good standing for tomorrow morning. But that same morning, I chose to go outside for a walk. I tend to do this quite often for just mental health purposes because I do like to get out in nature. I think it makes me feel happier. In this, I was trying to tuck myself out of the negative self-doubt because I kept thinking that this wasn't going to be done. That Tyler Mowery was just some genius that somehow did this in 2 days. That's not the case because I had to believe in myself to actually rekindle that belief that I have inside me that I won't quit. And what got me to this point to choose writing as a thing to pursue was the fact that I can do anything I wanted. You can be a doctor, you could be a lawyer, you could be the next person to cure cancer, you could be the next highly successful business owner. It does not matter. You have to believe you can do anything because somebody's going to do it, so why can't you? So once I got back from my walk and I took a little break, I had some breakfast, I pushed through it. I got to page 75 that day. I wrote 50 pages that day. This was a feat for me because the entire day I felt like wanting to quit. It seemed like every 5 minutes. Now this was exhausting. This wasn't very fun for me, but this wasn't really meant to be fun. This was meant to test my discipline. This was meant to test my willpower to see how much writing I could do in one day. Now, sure, this is not the best way to write. This is not a way that I will write again, but this was to prove to myself that I could do it. That I somehow managed to write 50 pages in one day. And by the night, I was really tired, but I still pushed through, and I got to page 75. Alright, guys, we are, just a little bit. We are at page 60 now. It is currently 8:52 p.m. I'm pretty tired, but I'm going to try to get to page 75 by tonight, get some sleep, and finish it tomorrow. So yeah. It was late, around 1 a.m., so I decided to finish up around page 75 and go get some sleep. After 2 long days of consistent writing, I finally finished. All 90 pages were done, and I was ready to be done with this. So now with this done, the full screenplay, all 91 pages written in 2 days, would I recommend to do this again? Probably not. I'm probably never going to write a screenplay in 2 days again. I'm not the writer of The Breakfast Club. This script, despite me liking the idea and me liking the process of writing the entire day, it's pretty horrible. It's pretty bad. Like, I found that writing the entire day kind of made my writing output and my workflow just messed up, and I felt like as time went on, my ability to dive into deep work would just suffer. Like once I would get past around 3 hours, I would just lose focus and not want to write anymore. So if you're a writer or just someone who is interested in, movies or screenplays, I would recommend to do this challenge at least once. But if you're trying to write something good, probably not. But like Tyler said, this was proof of that you don't need months or years to finish your story. The point of it is to get it written, not to get it right. So that's a really valuable lesson that this guy taught me, and going through the process of writing this. So that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, this is Skallia signing off.